Way down deep, off the coast of Japan's southernmost island, there's a puzzle that has completely baffled scientists and explorers for decades. It's a massive stone structure, and it just seems to defy any easy explanation. I mean, just look at this thing. You've got these gigantic, flat terraces, walls that are almost perfectly vertical, and these sharp 90-degree angles. So the question that everyone's been asking since it was found is a huge one. Are we looking at the ruins of a lost city, or is this just a spectacular trick of the sea? And that, right there, is the heart of the whole debate. It's a genuine scientific mystery that pits the idea of ancient human ingenuity against the raw, immense power of nature. Okay, let's dive right in. To really get what all the fuss is about, we've got to go back to the beginning, back to how this whole enigma was found in the first place. Believe it or not, it was a total accident. A local diver, Kihashiro Aratake, wasn't out there hunting for ancient ruins. Nope, he was actually just trying to find a new spot to show tourists the famous hammerhead sharks in the area. But he drifted a little too far into an area he wasn't supposed to be in and suddenly came face to face with this massive structure rising up from the seabed. And when I say massive, I mean it. This thing is huge. The main structure is about 27 meters tall. That's basically a 9-story building just sitting there on the ocean floor. The sheer scale of it was enough to spark some immediate and really intense curiosity. So, naturally, a find like this got researchers buzzing. But one man in particular would become the leading voice for the idea that this was no ordinary rock. His theory? That this was a lost city. Professor Masaaki Kimura, a marine geologist, has spent years diving at the site, studying every inch of it. And his conclusion is pretty firm. He says natural forces just can't explain what he's seen. For him, the geometry, the symmetry, it's all clear evidence of human hands at work. Now, Kimura's team wasn't just guessing. They mapped the entire site. And as you can see from their work, they identified features that look a lot like city planning. There's what he calls a loop road going around the main structure, a retaining wall, and even what he thinks are foundations for temples and a stadium. So his whole argument really boils down to 3 main things. First, you've got the terraces, these huge flat steps that look almost like a grandstand at a stadium. Next, he points to what he is sure are tool marks, grooves and cuts that suggest the stone was actually quarried and shaped. And finally, and this is the really wild part, what appear to be deliberate carvings, including shapes that look like a giant turtle and even a human face. And this is the kind of evidence that really fuels the whole man-made theory. Here you can see photos that allegedly show the wedge marks from cutting stone. And on the other side, take a look at that overhead view. Supporters say there's just no way that isn't a carved turtle. Now, trying to figure out when this supposed city was built, that's been a whole other saga. Initially, Kimura suggested it was over 10,000 years old, back when sea levels were much lower during the Ice Age. Later, he adjusted that, thinking maybe it was 5,000 years old. And then a later estimate, based on carbon dating, put it around 2,000 to 3,000 years old, which is a lot closer to other ancient cultures we know about. Okay, but for every single argument Kimura makes, there's a pretty powerful counter-argument from the world of geology. Their take? We're not looking at a lost city at all. We're looking at a stunning but completely natural wonder. And the main voice for the skeptics is geologist Robert Schoch. He's dived the site too, and he argues that what we're seeing is just basic geology in action. He explains that the rock here is sandstone, and sandstone naturally forms in these flat, parallel layers. When it fractures, it just breaks along those straight lines. Bam, you get these clean geometric shapes. And the forces we're talking about here, they are no joke. Yonaguni Island is smack in the middle of the Pacific Ring of Fire, a major hotspot for earthquakes. Geologists argue that you take thousands of years of quakes cracking the bedrock and then add powerful ocean currents washing over it, and yeah, you could absolutely end up with these architectural-looking shapes. And this might be the biggest point for the skeptics. You see those incredible steps underwater? Well, check this out. You can find almost the exact same terraced formations right there on the island's coast. And those? Everybody agrees they're 100% natural.
So, what we have here are two compelling but completely opposite explanations. All right, let's put their main claims head to head.
You see, it all comes down to how you interpret what you're seeing. Where one side sees deliberately carved platforms, the other sees natural geology. Where one side sees intentionally sculpted figures like that turtle, the other sees natural scratches and a classic case of what's called pareidolia. You know that thing our brains do where we see faces or animals in random patterns?
And just when you think you might be leaning one way, this throws a wrench in the works. Archaeologists have actually found what look like old stone tools on the seabed near the monument. So for the believers, this is it, the smoking gun, the builder's tools. But for skeptics, not so fast. Couldn't they have just been lost from fishing boats over thousands of years? So after decades of all this back and forth, where does that leave us? Has anybody reached a final verdict? Well, basically, we're in a stalemate. The general scientific consensus does lean towards a natural origin. And a big reason for that is that no tools have ever been found on the structure itself. The Japanese government hasn't declared it a cultural site either. But the features are just so tantalizingly ambiguous. And because it's open for anyone to go dive, the speculation is never, ever going to stop. And you know what? That might be the coolest part of this whole thing. The lack of a definitive answer has turned the Yonaguni Monument into this legendary bucket list destination. It's a place where every single diver gets to become their own investigator, weighing the evidence with their own eyes and trying to solve the puzzle for themselves. So in the end, whether it was carved by people or by the planet, the Yonaguni Monument is just this powerful reminder of the mysteries our world is still hiding. It makes you question where that line is between what's man-made and what's natural. And it leaves you with this one really thrilling thought. If something this spectacular can still be a mystery, what else is down there, just waiting to be discovered?